Hello, everyone. Just a friendly reminder that you can watch the podcast live and interact with us and other chatters on twitch.tv/convictedtoast. Enjoy the podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the newest episode of the Mixed Media Podcast. I am Mr. Rager, joined as always by Mr. Toast. It's been a while. We were just talking about how it's been a minute. Feels good to be back in the hot seat, talking about some movies. This is probably gonna be one of our more random, like less focused episodes that we've done. For you audio listeners and VOD listeners, you will hear us responding to chat quite a bit. We're doing a lot of chat interaction tonight, just kind of like a big thing before our Halloween. We do have another podcast coming up Tuesday. We'll plug that again at the end. We are covering 4 films from the Halloween franchise. But tonight we're going to be talking about some films that me and Mr. Toast have seen over the last couple weeks. We watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, The Belko Experiment, Hellraiser 1 and 2, and Candyman 1 and 2. So we have quite a few
Yep. To
to talk about
specify
for
for
you
the
guys.
Candyman, it's the 2019 one and the original.
Yes.
We don't talk
Yes.
about those other two.
Yeah, the actual 2 and 3 for Candyman don't exist, and there are only 2 Hellraiser films in a remake.
Yep.
Jordan says, interact with me. I'm sitting here not being interacted with. We are interacting with you, Jordan.
Yep.
Feel free to
Additionally,
chime in.
thank you, Trent, for the Twitch Prime here at the beginning of the stream.
Yes, thank you very much. It keeps us going, keeps us humble. So, I guess we should start with what? Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, right?
I suppose we just go in the order that we watched.
Prepare to get flamed, Keegan. No, I'm kidding. Keegan had a, I would say, I don't think your reaction to it was negative. I
It
mean,
wasn't
correct me if I'm
negative.
over.
Like,
It was lukewarm, I would say.
yeah.
It was lukewarm. Um, Hellraiser was a banger to watch with you all. Yeah, Trent did watch Hellraiser with us. We'll be
Yep.
getting to that one and Candyman, which we also watched with Trent. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Everybody, I watch it every Halloween since a boss of mine at where I work, he recommended it to me in like 2019, I think, and every year since I've watched it around Halloween. I bought it on Blu-ray. I paid $45 for a 4K of it because I fucking love that movie. It is an absolute blast. Basically, it is a sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we didn't watch the first one. We probably should have, but it's fine. You haven't seen the first one, have
I
you?
haven't. This
That
is
might
out of
add
the
a little
entire
bit.
series. This is the only one that I've seen.
That might be why you had lukewarm, because I feel like if you understood what he was going for with the second one a little bit more and had like seen the first one, it might have like enhanced your experience. Basically, for a little bit of slasher horror for you, hold on. Toast has poop opinions confirmed. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is fire. There's Sam.
Apparently, I've let the fame and the women go to my head too. If only either of those were true.
So there's a everybody knows, big slasher boom. My voice just cracked so bad there. Holy shit. Big slasher boom, late 70s, early 80s, continued up until about the 90s. Scream kind of revitalized it in the mid 90s. But there's sequel. If you had a franchise, you were making sequels. Didn't want to, too fucking bad. You're making a sequel. They're making money. It's pretty much what the MCU and DC is right now to film. Is what
Yeah.
the slasher movie genre was to that time period. I mean, we got like, it's crazy to me that there are 12 Friday the 13th movies. You might find this very interesting too, Toast. How many of those 12 do you think came out during the 80s?
I have no idea.
8.
Okay.
8 of them, and they came out almost annually. There are only 2 years from 1980 to 1990 where you didn't get a new Friday the 13th movie that year. So, upon this success, Tobe Hooper had made Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974, and it was a hit. Not at first. A lot of people were very disgusted by it. It is For those of you who haven't seen it, it's filmed like guerrilla documentary style. It looks really realistic. The violence isn't overplayed. It it's scary. Um, there aren't very many horror movies that actually kind of get to me. Texas Chainsaw the original does. It's the way it's filmed is absolutely just it's insane. And Toby Hooper went on. He was doing other projects. I don't think I talked to you about this. He did Poltergeist with Steven Spielberg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was doing a little bit of everything, dipping into horror, and they wouldn't shut the fuck up about a sequel to Texas Chainsaw 2 or to Texas Chainsaw because the everybody's like, just do it, like just continue it, like come on, let's go. Like slasher movies are big right now. That's pretty much a slasher movie. Do another one. And Toby Hooper's like, for years, he's just rolling his eyes. He's like, I don't want to do a sequel. And he got a submission. There's like this indie underground film festival. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. I have so much knowledge about this film. I love it. He got a submission from Bill Moseley, who in the movie was Chop Top. And it was called the Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And it was a parody of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but like a hairstylist place and in like a nail salon. He loved Bill Moseley. He was like, man, he's great. So he's like, okay, I think I'll do a sequel now, but I'm gonna parody my first movie. Instead of doing an actual sequel, I'm just gonna make fun of what I did and just make it more over the top, funny. It'll be wild. It won't be as serious. It'll be filmed like an actual movie. So he went and got Bill Moseley. And Bill Moseley, he was like, hey, do you want to shave your head? And Bill Moseley's like, yeah, I want to shave my head if I'm going to be in the movie. And Bill Moseley's agent was like, you can charge him for that. And Bill Moseley was like, oh, I can. $200. For $200, I'll shave my head for Chop Top. And he was like, okay. So then we got this movie, Bubba, just a little off the top. Yes. Yes, Jordan, exactly. And then Trent says it makes you feel like you're in the film. Yeah, the original, for sure. So I'm gonna hand over the reins to you for a moment, Keegan. If you want to talk a little bit, you could either like talk about the beginning of the film, or if you want to talk a little bit about the film in general.
Yeah. So overall, like, I don't think it was a bad film, but I think not having context of the first one, having actually seen it and only knowing like tidbits about it, it's definitely like one that I went into and just like, okay, like maybe I just didn't get it. I don't know, but I didn't dislike it. I actually thought a lot of it was really fun. Like the opening with them, with like the two dudes in the car on the bridge, like that, that was actually pretty good. Especially
Buzz and Rick the Prick.
yeah, I like that part. And then my favorite thing is that when we were watching it, you were like, every single person said the same thing where when they're on the bridge, it's like, this is a really long bridge, and I said the same thing.
It goes on forever.
It's like what, 2 minutes maybe?
Yeah, it's a good 2 minute long bridge. It is
Yeah.
a very long bridge. And then when they show it later, it's like a fucking fourth of a mile.
Yeah. It's like this.
I like to think that they're just going in circles.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
They're just getting to the end and turning around and like doing the same thing over and over again.
I'm tired of killing people, Grandpa. Well, it's too damn bad, Jordan says.
He's turning around the old Holes quote into a horror movie quote. I like that. Yeah, but a lot of the characters that we get introduced to, I really enjoyed. I can't remember what her name is, the radio host.
Stretch.
Yeah, that's I thought that she was great. That was honestly, it was really good there. But like overall, it wasn't a bad film. Maybe if I watched it again with the like having like knowing a little bit more, I didn't enjoy it more now. So
Yeah, it's goofy. I love that opening. I love Buzz and Rick the Prick. He wrote them to be like two of the most unlikable characters, but they're so unlikable that you love it. Like they're so funny. Like they're in the car and they're like, "This is Buzz and Rick the Prick, baby. We're on the road to nowhere." It's so good. And then they do it to themselves. They're the first two kills of the film. They start playing chicken with a random truck in Texas. They get pissed. It's Leatherface, and he fucking chases them. And I love one of my favorite lines of the movie is they're going across the bridge, and the truck pulls out in front of them, and you hear their horn, and it's so comical. It's just like, "Rrrr." And Buzz is sitting there. He's like, "What the fuck? Back up, pig fucker!" That line is so good.
It's a little out of
But
context, but the sound that you just made reminded me of the like stone walls from Mario.
yeah, that's literally what it is. I love the music. You got Danny Elfman's "No One Lives Forever" blasting on the radio, and they're going, and Leatherface up there doing his dance. Oh, it's so good. And then we get introduced to my favorite character in the movie, which is played by Dennis Hopper for some reason, Lefty Enright. Uh, some context for Dennis Hopper. This is not a movie Dennis Hopper you would think he would do. Dennis Hopper was in Apocalypse Now. He was in Easy Rider. He was in all of these films that were nominated for Oscars, and he was just like, I want to do this. And he like gives it his all the entire movie, like so over the top, like Nicolas Cage levels of overacting. Sam says the freaking soundtrack is unreasonably good. Yeah, it does have a great soundtrack. How did you feel about Lefty Enright, the
um,
sheriff?
I thought that was such an interesting character because he starts off and you're like, I'm taking this guy serious, and then like 3 or 4 scenes go by and it's like, I am not taking this guy serious at all anymore.
I am the Lord of the Harvest. What's that?
Especially
Some health food bunch?
the scene when he just goes into the chainsaw shop, grabs 3 chainsaws, puts like $200 down, and just leaves.
Yeah, he puts like a grand down because he takes 3 of them. He like walks outside. He's like the guy like sounds like Hank Hill. He's like, give them saws a time or two, and he's just like smashing them on this thing, and he's like like terrified out of his mind. This
Yep.
dude's nuts. I love that he like has the one big one, and then he has like the holsters, and he's
Yep.
dual wielding chainsaws. Oh my god, it's it's so good. So yeah, you get introduced to Lefty, and it's that stereotypical like police thing. He's like, "You're out of your jurisdiction." He's like, "You want me to leave? I'd just love to see that authority." In like real life, he'd just like fucking throw him on a plane and send him back to Amarillo. And then we get some stuff with trash. Jesus Christ. We get some
Wrong
stuff with
movie.
yeah, wrong movie. We get some stuff with Stretch, and the next big scene that I want to talk about is Chop Top Sawyer's introduction. Jesus God, it's been a long day, guys. I've been up since 5:30. I've had no caffeine. Just full context for this. I'm like wired. This is Bill Moseley's first movie, and this is his first big scene. Uh, I absolutely love Chop Top's introduction. If you want to um, talk about it a little bit, Keegan, you can.
Yeah. So Stretch is kind of looking around the studio because the sheriff had forced her to basically play the audio from the night that the 2 characters died. You just said their names, like they blanked.
Buzz and Rick the Brick.
Yeah, so after they're killed, they were on the phone with her at the studio, and she like had a recording of it. The sheriff forced her to play it, and then later that night, she's looking around the studio, walks into like their front office area, and is he sitting on a couch? Am I wrong?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's sitting on the couch, and he's got his hanger, his wire hanger, and a lighter, and he's just heating it up, scratching his head, and then just eating some skin. That's the.
Hey, Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
I was just gonna say I've never been to a radio station before. What were you gonna say?
That's pretty much all I had, to be honest.
Oh,
Jordan
cut
does
you
say
off.
that he is a Jedi. It's not related to anything. He just wanted to get off his chest.
Sam says that shit makes my skin crawl. Yeah, every time we watch that movie, she hates the clothes hanger thing. I love and hate that scene. It like that's the only part to me that like his character is the only character that really feeds into the horror of the first one because like he's goofy, like he's ridiculous, but also he's like taking a coat hanger, getting it hot enough to like peel skin, taking skin off his scalp and just sitting there like munching on it like it's a bag of fucking Skittles.
Yeah.
Like he is just wild, and there are so many great lines in this scene, like so many quotable lines. He's just like a one-liner machine throughout the whole office. He's just like going around. He's like, what was that you played on the radio anyway? Was that the Rainbow 3 soundtrack?" It's just so good. I love it. I used to be able to do a really good impression of him.
Yes.
You gonna play it again?
So the reason that they were able to do Chop Top, right, was they like for the story they said that he was like in Vietnam during the
Yeah, in
scene
the
during the
original.
first one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's why he has the dent in his plate.
Yeah.
Well, he has the
The plate
dent
in
plate.
general.
Yeah, why he has the plate because he was blown up by a grenade in Nam.
Yeah.
He came back. I love that. I love when he's like, when he gets like hit in the head, he's like, "Nam flashback, Nam flashback," and then like he's yells like random Vietnamese like shit throughout the movie. Like he's just like, "Nam land, fire in the hole, napalm." Like he does such a good job at playing like a psychopath. I see why Rob Zombie wanted him for like 5 different movies. So Leatherface attacks Stretch in the station during this scene, and I don't want to talk about the ice scene. I don't like the ice
Okay.
scene. You know what I'm talking about
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
chainsaw.
Yep.
I don't like that scene. I don't know why he included that scene. I
It
get
is a little
why.
weird.
It's the only part of the movie I don't like. It's my only complaint with that movie is that it's in my top 20, and that's the only part I don't like is that weird like sexual thing he's got going on with his chainsaw. I'm like
Yeah.
a little weird.
Yeah, I wasn't
Uh,
a fan of that either. I was kind of watching, I was like, this is why does this need to be here?
yeah, it's a weird scene. We got some chatters. Trent says it's so great though. Oh, that scene. Sam says non flashback, non flashback. Trent says Chop Top is goaded. Uh, and then I think Jordan is doing a rap in our chat for Chop Top right
Chop
now.
Top. Raindrop. Picked up dope and hot box. God damn it.
Dude, he tripped over that like God, I can't remember the one character's name. Fuck, the guy is with the LG. LG comes back to the station and he just gets fucking clobbered. Just hit over
Oh
the
yeah.
head, just knocked to the ground, and we get a scene that mirrors the first film. There's a scene in the first film not played for laughs where it's the when I watched the movie, it terrified me. It was bright outside, like it wasn't dark. I was just sitting there watching the first movie. Scared the shit out of me. There's this scene where they're in the house and this dude's like walking through it and he walks this room and you hear like a pig squeal and Leatherface like rounds the corner, hits him once on the head with this hammer. The dude drops and like starts violently seizing. Leatherface grabs his body, drags him away, and closes the door, and it cuts the next scene. It is like there's no blood, no gore. It's super fast, super like effective to the point. And we get like that scene in this one, but it's like I said, he like parodies it. Like he has the same like setup, but it's played for laughs in this one. Like LG like sitting there like this, and then you got fucking Chop Top sitting next to him going like mocking him when he's dying.
Yeah.
Love that scene. Oh shit, we didn't talk about the Drayton cook-off.
Oh yeah, we can go back.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. I'll let you take the reins on the Drayton family recipe.
Yeah. So it kind of we have to go back a little bit, but basically after the first night when she gets the recording of the murders, she takes it to the sheriff and she's like, I want you to listen to this and like we could, use that for the investigation or whatever. And then he's like, I don't care, sends her away. She ends up at it's like a mall or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're having it was like a chili chili contest, so you can make the best chili. And then what's the reward? Is the trophy's got like a what is it? I'm trying to
It's
remember.
I don't even remember. It's like a big bowl, and then they put the chili like in it, and it like drips down onto the
Yeah.
trophy.
Yep. Um. Yeah. Then it's like, yeah, we won. What is it? It's like what, 3 years in a row or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, what's your secret?" "Oh, don't skimp on the meat. We take pride in our recipe." And
Yep.
like, she is like, what bone is that? Like that she like pulls out of her mouth. Is it
Oh
like a?
right.
It's like a
Uh.
thing, like a. I don't know, like a phalange. I don't know the
Yeah. It
finger.
was. I think it was a finger or something.
It was like a bone in your finger, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, that's a hard shell peppercorn. Part of the secret to the sauce." Sam says, "Isn't that the first kill in that movie?" Yes, in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that scene is the first kill. Cartman family recipe chili,
Yeah.
and then family. Very true.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess what comes after this is, man, this movie moves really fast.
Yeah. It's there's what, like maybe 4 or 5 locations in the entire film.
Yeah, it moves pretty quick. It's paced really well.
Yeah.
I guess the next thing is if you want to start as soon as they get to the fun house.
Yeah. So both Stretch and the sheriff find themselves at the funhouse. The sheriff is chasing her with his car and isn't like, "Hey, I'm the sheriff" or anything. So she's running for her life from a car, and then finally he's like, "What are you doing?" And then she falls down the trap hole, or down a trap door into a hole.
Stretch! Damn it, I used you, girl.
Yeah. Uh so basically she's down the hole and gets like she like falls like right where Leatherface is at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then he's still up top, and he goes into the front door with the chainsaws and just starts cutting everything down. just tear it all down. Doesn't care about anything. He just wants to destroy the place. He doesn't like. That's his first goal, I guess. But then back
Bring it all down.
yeah. As he's sitting there screaming, cutting through like pillars and shit, just random pillars of wood that don't even seem like they're structurally sound.
I love that.
Yeah. But then we go back underground where Stretch is at after she's fallen down, and Leatherface is there with LG's body, just cutting various pieces of his skin off. And then we get like, so this is the most uncomfortable thing that happened for me in the film, was he cuts off LG's face and finds her and puts LG's face on Stretch's face and starts like dancing with her.
Yeah.
I was so uncomfortable. I hated that scene.
I thought you were gonna talk about, yeah, that is actually true. That is some true horror in the
Yeah.
second one. I really liked that. That's a really good way to make you feel really uncomfortable. I mean, like, and like the fact that she like couldn't take it off
Yeah.
either, like her hands were tied.
Yep.
And then LG like fucking wakes up and sees himself. I love when he
Yeah.
like sits up, like he has no skin on his face, and he's still like, during the movie, he just like randomly like hawks a loogie and spits it on the ground.
Yep.
He like sits up, he's like, oh, like no skin on his body. He like hawks up a loogie and spits it out. You're just like, dude. Oh my god. So you got Detective N, right? He's running through the place. He's like, "I'll take you to hell. I'll bring it all down."
Yep.
He's like singing these like Texan like folk songs and shit. And Stretch, she LG helps her get away before he dies, and I think his last words aren't they like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, I think so.
And he keels over,
Yep.
and Stretch is taken off, and then you get some like shenanigans. There's a lot of shenanigans in this movie with the Sawyer family. Uh, Toby Hooper did make the creative decision to make the poster of this movie a rip off of The Breakfast Club and like the positions they're all sitting.
Yep.
Uh, and then they see Stretch fucking dart across the ground, and Drayton Sawyer, he's like, "What, did you see that?" He's like, "A booger just ran through here," and Chop says, "A booger? How big?" And then we get the dinner scene, which again, this is something that hindsight 2020, I think would have been a lot better for you if you had seen the first one, because there's a dinner scene in the first one, and it is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It is gnarly to watch. It's really fucked up. This one is like kind of played for laughs a little bit. It's not as intense or over the top. Um, so they get him down for dinner, and Lefty's coming down, and he comes down, and they're like trying to kill Stretch. They brought the grandpa down for dinner, and he's like trying to hit her over the head with this thing. And Lefty comes down, and he goes, "Boys, boys, boys." And like they're all like looking at him, and Drayton Sawyer's like, "Is that the American way of entering someone's home?" Oh, it's so good. And they get into a battle. You can talk about the battle if you want.
Oh my god. So I don't think anybody in their right mind has ever thought, what if two people fought with chainsaws? Like, what would that look like? And then they brought that to life here. It's it's a standoff. So basically a sword fight, but with chainsaws. They're just going at it. It's such a weird sequence to watch too, because you're just sitting there, just like, what the fuck is this?
I love that he's a cop. He didn't bring any fucking guns. He
Yep.
just brought chainsaws.
Yep. And then he has to switch to the holstered dual wield.
Yeah. He gets the big one like stuck in his gut. He pulls the other ones, they're sword fighting. And you got Drayton under the table, and he's just like, "Where's that old, yeah, just in case, that old, fuck you, Charlie." And he finds this grenade, and I can't remember who, somebody drops a chainsaw, and it goes like into the table, and it hits him, and he drops the fucking grenade, and it like pans out, and it just explodes. Leatherface, Lefty, Grandpa, and Drayton all fucking killed in one explosion. And then we get what I think is the better like final chase. This is one of the only moments well, we talked about a couple other moments, but this one is like Chop Top's not funny now. He is like deranged, like
Yeah.
completely off the rails, like lunacy levels, like chasing Stretch up this mountain.
Yeah.
We got a chatter.
Aripacon Cafe, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Yeah, welcome. So if you want to, you could talk about the sequence with Stretch and Chop Top if you want
Yeah.
going up them.
So they basically they get to a point where Stretch and Chop Top are like the only two left, and she starts trying to make her way out, and there's this this really long like ladder. It's kind of going at like an angle. It's weird, but they're both trying to just get out into the surface and like climb basically, and they're going back and forth, like getting the momentum. She's been able to like throw him off for a second, get a little bit more distance. He catches back up. Same thing happens until they finally like get up all the way up, and they see what's her name? I can't remember. Grandma. Yeah, they find Grandma, and she's like decrepit and just has like a chainsaw sitting there. So Stretch goes for it. She like rips it out, like sitting there trying to start it, finally gets it going, and basically hits Chop Top with it, and he flies over the railing and dies. And then she does the iconic Leatherface chainsaw dance.
Yeah, and then the movie just fades to black. It is a gnarly ending. They were actually I can't remember what it was called. There's a sequel planned, but just for Chop Top, and it like was one of the earliest like crowd funded Kickstarter things. It wasn't Kickstarter, but like, it was actually done by William Hooper, who is Toby Hooper's son, and he started the project in 2000, and it was called All American Massacre. I found it, and Bill Moseley was supposed to return as Chop Top, and like the plot, excuse me, if I remember correctly, he's like sent away to this like mental ward, and he escapes or something like that. It was weird. It was very psychological compared to the other ones. He filmed a good portion of it, and then it's lost. It is one of the most famous pieces of lost media ever. No one has seen anything from it. And there is an hour's worth of footage that exists somewhere
Hmm.
out there and no one's seen it.
I wish somebody would find the Batgirl movie that got deleted.
Yeah. It would have been I think it would have been all right. I don't think
Yeah.
it would have been great, but I think it would have been interesting to kind of return to that and like do something different.
Yeah. Anyway, back on track.
Yeah. Little tangent. But so that's the end of the movie. Most of the characters die.
I think
I re-
Stretch is the only one that survives, right?
Yeah, Stretch lives. Yep. Rick the Prick, if you believe hard enough. One I heard. I think we should how we should do this is we should just score each one as we go, and then maybe we could do like our least a favorite at the end.
Yeah.
So for me, this is a 10. I am sad to say it is a guilty pleasure of mine. I fucking love this movie. I've seen it like 30 times. It's so good.
Well, I don't mean to disappoint anybody. I have to give it a 7.5 without any
That's
context of seeing any other films.
that's a lot higher than I thought it was gonna be.
Nah, it's not like I wasn't like, oh, this is terrible or anything, but like it wasn't I don't know, maybe it's like I heard you hype it up a lot and maybe I had a higher anticipation, maybe. That's I don't know.
I tend to do that with that and Freaked. If you watch Freaked, they're like, "What the fuck?" You should really watch the first one and then come back to 2. Sam says, "Yeah, that might honestly give him a little bit more of an appreciation
Yeah.
for 2." So Freaked is the best in the worst way. I guess we're on to the Belko experiment. That was the second one we watched. This one was your pick.
Yeah.
This is all you. This is all
So
you.
Belko Experiment's a really interesting film. It's not your traditional horror in the element of like monsters or zombies or anything like that. This one is purely like it plays more on the human psyche than anything. Starts off relatively normal, you know, it's in Colombia, right? Am I
I
mistaken?
think so. Yes, yes.
So it takes place in Colombia, and they're basically everybody's shown up to work, and it's very strange. So they all work in this office called Belco, and there's like new security guards outside, and they're like, "We're sending any like natives to Colombia. We're sending them home. They're not working today." And they all, you know, everybody gets to work. Their day's going normal. We get introduced to a fair amount of the characters here and there. Just brief introductions, nothing crazy. We'll get to know them more throughout the movie. But everybody's just like, it's another day at work, pretty much. And then an announcer over the speaker says, basically, what is it? It's, in the next 60 minutes, if you do not kill like 30 employees or whatever, then 60 will be killed, basically. And they're just like, haha, funny, that's really good. And then like nobody's taking it serious. And then these like armored shutters close over all the windows and doors. They're like, that's weird. Somebody must just hacked their security. I don't know. This is such an interesting film. Yeah, and as you mentioned in the chat there, yeah, James Gunn did write this one. He was originally going to direct it, but he couldn't. I don't think it fit in his schedule, so he just sold it off to somebody. But yeah. So what were your thoughts like for the startup?
I feel like this movie is titled wrong.
You think so?
I think it should have been titled Dr. Cox's Office Rocker. I think I think that would have been
That's
the
okay.
better.
That's fair. Yeah. So the actor that plays Dr. Cox, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment, but he's a character in it, and he is one of the characters that later on throughout the film is like trying his best to survive, basically.
Yeah, it's he's awesome. The opening I really like. I like the setup a lot. I like how they kind of it makes sense the way that they react at first. Like, oh, this is a joke or whatever.
Yeah.
You got Sean Gunn dicking around smoking pot on the job. That's really good. Uh, gotta love Sean Gunn and like everything. And then you got Michael Rooker and Polka Dot Man in the basement.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like the opening, and I like the setup for this movie a lot. It's a really interesting premise.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting premise, and I think the way it all goes throughout is like I like the way they do it. The only thing that we both agreed on is that the ending is just kind of weak.
Yeah, the ending took it down. Whenever we talk about scores, I'll mention it because I have my actual letterboxed what I scored it and like what I wrote about it.
Yeah.
And the ending really like fucked me up.
Yeah.
I did not like that ending.
Yeah.
Uh,
So anyway, back at the point when they're talking about, how many people have to be dead within the next hour. Everybody, just a joke, whatever. And then the hour comes up and people's heads start exploding. And they're like, is it like somebody shooting? What's going on? They're like, they hear the gunshots. They think it's gunshots. It's not. Turns out that the company, Belco, they've all been working there for over a year. And when they first started working, they had these like trackers put in their head. Basically, James Gunn wrote the Suicide Squad before he made the Suicide Squad.
yeah. Do you think this is what's gonna happen with like what do they fucking call them? Social experiment YouTubers if we let them go farther?
Probably. There's probably a reason that we don't let him go farther.
Yeah, it's the gore is really good. The special effects are done really well in this
Yeah.
movie. And there's a lot of like very interesting characters. A lot of them are very Stephen King-esque, and like a lot of them are just complete fucking tools.
Yeah.
Especially Dr. Cox.
Yeah. This is also one of the only movies that we get to see Dutch van der Linde as his actual actor.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. It was funny though, because I was staring, I was like, I remember him from something. It's from like interviews when he talked about Red Dead, but he's when he like yelled at something, it's like, that's Dutch.
I didn't notice it until you said something, and I was like, holy shit, you're right.
Yeah. But anyway, we get to the point where it's very strange, the office that they work at, because they have an armory with guns in it in an office building. I don't know how you write that in, to be honest. I don't know. But anyway, basically they're at the point where they're like, all right, maybe it's not a prank. We need guns. And it's like, why do we need guns? Like, what are they gonna do? And then it turns out, as we're told in it, this is one of the things I hated about this movie, actually. So two of the big characters is I think he's not the CEO, he's like the CFO or something for the company. Yeah. So he's the CFO, and then we have Dr. Cox, who both, in passing, we're told both have special forces training in their background. And it's like, it's something that if you weren't paying full attention, you're like, you don't know. And it's like, oh, why are these guys so good at killing people?
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of like a throwaway thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it happens when they're like they get to a point where before they can get guns, they run into the kitchen and they start like trying to pull out like knives, cleavers, whatever they can find. And then it's like told in passing in that moment when they're like, this is not how we should be doing this. And then they finally devise the plan, like, okay, we have another 2 hours. What if we like make some banners and hang it up so that people will come and find us? And they'll be like, what's going on down there, right? That plane doesn't work at all. As they're trying to put it up, the security guards that are on the ground start shooting at them, and then they get a notification. They're like, "Hey, stop doing that, or we're gonna detonate whoever's putting it up. We're gonna detonate their tracker." We also skipped over something. There is a scene when they first find out about the trackers. He's kind of our main character named Mike. He is like, I'm cutting this thing out. He gets a box cutter, runs into a bathroom and locks the door, and starts trying to cut the thing out of the back of his head. It's a very, very hard to watch scene, as you can imagine. But yeah, that's one of the ones I'm like, I don't like that. But yeah, overall, the movie itself is it's not like a super complex thing, but it's more of an in-depth look at like what you would do to survive in a situation that is like goes against your morality pretty much.
I wouldn't know why they had all those guns in there too.
I do too. Like,
Yeah,
James Gunn, there's a plot hole. Rewrite this movie, please.
they had like a whole fucking armory in there.
Yeah. It's very strange. I don't know.
I want to talk for a minute about Dr. Cox being off as Rocker here.
All right.
For well, for those of you who don't know, Scrubs TV series Doctors, Dr. Cox is one of the doctors. He plays a guy in here who's like up the CEO's ass. What's the character's name?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't either. I'm trying so hard to remember and I can't. I think it was Wendell, wasn't it?
Wendell, yeah.
And he is a fucker in this movie. Like he
Yeah.
is just like killing people left and right. He doesn't care. He's like before the Belko experiment even starts, like the actual experiment part of the movie, he's like sexually harassing like this woman that works there in front of her boyfriend.
Yeah, like she's literally sitting there like working, and she looks up from her monitor, sees him across in his own office, and he's just staring at her. And then she like messages him through like the computer, and it's like, when most people like get caught staring, they stop. And then he's still just locking eyes with her.
Yeah, he does not like. Yeah, he's fucking creepy in this
Yeah.
movie. The CEO's an ass too. While I'm at it, or the CFO.
Yeah.
Oh, his character is just. Ooh.
Yeah.
What part are we at in the plot now?
So it's after they try to do the banners. Basically they're like, you need to kill 30 people before like the 2-hour marker's up. And they get to the point where the CFO and Wendell are like gathering people up in the front office, or in the front of the building, and they're like picking out, they're like, if you have kids and if you're over like the age of 60 or something like that, and they start rounding them up to do like an execution of 30 people. It's one of the hardest scenes to watch, truly, because it's just that's so fucked up.
I like the way they do it though.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Like they were trying to justify it a little bit, where they're picking out people that are like, if you're over the age of 60, you're basically on your way out. If you have kids, you're pretty much safe, because you still have a responsibility to your family. So if you were single, didn't have kids, and were not over the age of 60, put them down.
Yeah. Mike does not like this at all.
Yeah.
He disagrees.
Mike the character and Mike here, right?
I don't know if I necessarily disagree completely.
Okay.
I mean, okay, realistically, they proved themselves that they are going to do this. Makes sense to go for the elderly first. I'm sorry. It makes sense. Single people, I don't know. Like that's maybe split hairs. Like Dave kind of like he farts like in public or something. Like
Yeah.
well,
Oh, but as well, Mike has been making a target for himself the entire time, because he's like, you're not getting guns. I'm not letting you kill 30 people. And he just paints a target on his back, and they're like, let's go through. Mike fixed that criteria, put him in the line.
Yeah, yep. He really fucking does himself a disservice. Like if I disagree with them, like I'd come up with my plan with the other people that disagree. I wouldn't publicly scream at them that they're dumbasses like 15 different times.
Yeah.
Kind of puts you on their shit list.
Yeah.
So at this point, the janitors are dead, right? At this point in the story, when
I
they
think
start
so.
plugging these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene is upsetting. I
Yeah.
like Michael Rooker and I like Polka Dot Man.
Yeah. So we kind of went over, but they're working in like the maintenance area, and Polka Dot Man. I feel bad that we can't remember his actual name, but
Oh, David Duchamillon. I just
Okay.
like calling him Polka Dot
Polka Dot Man sounds easier. I'm gonna be real.
Man. Yeah.
Anyway, they're down in the basement, and he's starting to get really paranoid. And Michael Rooker's character is just like, settle down. It's not like, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And like he's been he gave him like a wrench to like defend himself in case anything went crazy. And he's still having this moment. He's like, this, I can't believe this is happening. And he's like freaking out. And he like in a moment of panic, he hits Michael Rooker in the head. And he's just like, and Michael Rooker falls down to the ground. Like he sits down and he's like, what just happened? And you look at his head and there's just this dent right in his skull. And he just dies right there.
Yeah. Polka Dot Man did a bad there.
Did a murder.
Yeah, he did a naughty.
Yeah. But then he sees one of the characters down there, and she's like, I'm not gonna say anything, don't worry. And he still starts coming after her, and she like hits him, and he like stumbles backwards, and there's these things of rebar sticking out of the wall. He falls back into it, and it goes right into his neck. So both of our maintenance characters die tragically, unintentionally.
Yeah. R.I.P. the Rook Man and Polka Dot Man.
R.I.P. Merle.
Yeah,
And
Merle.
yeah, it happened. Anyway.
So, my memory serves me correct. They get away from them after they murk some of the people in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
They're kind of on this hunt for them now, and they're like running out of time, and they just like barely get to the 30 kill time frame.
They're at 29, and then the 2 hours is up before they get the 30th.
Oh, that's right. It does run out, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Okay, that's right.
Yep. And then it comes down to, I think it's like 13 people left in the office or something like that. But basically, the next part of the experiment is they say, by the end of whatever time mark it is, whoever has the most kills, gets to survive, basically. And at that point, the CFO had like 13. Wendell had like 8 or 9, I think.
I thought Wendell had more than him.
The Wendell was behind, because he was there's the part where he sees the girl and he's like pleading. He's like, I think I could beat him.
Yeah.
So like everybody it's a free for all at this point. There's a couple of characters that are still trying to hide. Especially there are 2 that are on like this elevator. They get into the elevator shaft. One of them gets crushed because he's an idiot. The other one, she like gets off and then like gets back on, making a ton of noise. And this is like, a few people have died at this point. I'm gonna cover Wendell's death here really quick, actually, because he does not make it out. But he has a gun still, and they're like, take this table, and it's her and I can't remember his name. It's gone from my head.
The main character?
No. James Gunn's brother.
Oh, Sean Gunn.
Yeah, Sean Gunn. They both push this table, and they push it over top of him. Sean Gunn is hit during this process and dies there, but she has this fire axe, lifts it over over her head, and smashes Dr. Cox's face about 13 times with a fire axe. It's very brutal, because you actually see the axe, like the first swing, you actually watch it go in to his face.
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal.
The fucking Dr. Cox and the CFO fighting over these kills, like these two fucking corporate guys are like two fucking GameStop managers fighting over a pro card. I think I could beat him.
I can do it. I need to get the free copy of Call of Duty this year. But yeah, so it's down to like 4 people left. The girl that was on the elevator shaft drops down, the doors open up, and the CFO just shoots her in the head. One of the most anticlimactic deaths in the entire film so far. It was so disappointing to watch that happen, because it was just like they had her survive for so long just for an elevator door to open up and she gets shot.
Yeah, that's another thing that really rubbed me the wrong way, because like they build her up as like another one of the main characters.
Yeah, just to die off like that.
And it's gross.
Yeah, so it's Mike's girlfriend, Mike, the CFO left. She gets hit when they're trying to run away from him. He shoots her. And then they have this final moment where she bleeds out in front of Mike, and Mike's like, all right, it's just me and him now, pretty much. And they're going through, it's like a conference room with like a projector screen and everything. And the CFO's looking around, and out of nowhere, Mike pulls off some WWE moves and jumps off of a table and tackles him to the ground. Gets him into like a leg lock, and then this is actually the cover of the DVD or the Blu-ray box art. It's the kill at the end of the movie with Mike holding the tape gun over his head as he smashes his face with it.
I wish that there were more kills like that in the movie than with guns.
Yeah, it almost feels like the guns were like a cop out. Like it should have felt like you're scrounging around and like, oh, I have like a pair of scissors or something, you know?
Like an Office Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like using what's like available to you.
Yeah.
And after the CFO's dead, we get one of the most, I don't even want to talk about this. I fucking hate this ending.
It was terrible. It was an interesting idea, not done well at all.
No, not at all.
Anyway, so Sean Gunn's character, before he ended up dying, was taking the bombs out of the people that didn't die from their thing detonating. He was taking their bombs out of their heads, and he had it in a little handkerchief or something like that. But basically, on the way out, Mike stuffed it in his pocket, and then these armed guards are sitting outside, and they grab him by the arms. They escort him into this hangar that's outside the office, and they start to try and like interview and interrogate him. And they're like, so like, you know, how did you feel about all this? Whatever. He's like, how do you feel right now? And he's like, would you say you feel sadness, anger, whatever? And then Mike's like, yeah, so I put bombs on all of you guys. And then he just gets up and finds the switches with all the things and flips all of them except for his own. And then the guy that was trying to interview him was like, hey, you value human life. Throughout the experiment you tried to, and then he just shoots him with a rifle and walks out. It pans out from the camera, and you see that this happened at a bunch of other Belcos across the world, and then it's credits roll.
Yeah. Oh, I hated that ending. It was miserable. I just don't like the weird thing with them. I wish they would have just shot him, or when they're like drag him out, like it just like kind of goes to white, and then you could have that final shot of like all the Belcos.
Yeah.
I
And
think
then
that would
I
have worked
think
better.
if it had just been like, if they had shown that this happened at other locations and then left it to interpretation and didn't just give me like, oh yeah, we're a secret government agency that does social experiments basically.
Yeah, I didn't care for that. So overall, what do you give it out of 10, Keegan?
I give it like a 6.57 maybe.
Oh, I gave it a 7 on Letterboxd.
Yeah. It's not a terrible movie, but it definitely has a lot of writing issues where it doesn't live up to what it could have been, especially with the introduction of guns into it, into an office space. Like that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And my Letterboxd review, I also said Dr. Cox is off his rocker. He really was. Uh, so, um, moving on. Do you have anything else you wanted to say about Belko?
That's pretty
No?
much it. I think if we were to ever see like a sequel or anything from this, I think James Gunn should write it again and maybe direct it himself.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, I think it would have been a much better with James Gunn's direction instead of
Yeah.
just his writing.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna have to have a quick repeat of episode 7.
What do you? Oh, you have to pee.
Yeah, I have to pee.
All right. Well, Mike, this seems to be becoming a bit of a trend. How about we start peeing before the podcast? Welcome back.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
All right, now let's make a mark for when you return, so I can edit this and it's not going to be a pain in the ass. Mark.
Wait, what? Mark what?
That's fine.
Oh, are you marking this so you
Yeah.
can edit it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, here. There we go. Sorry
Alright.
about that. Goblin running, it was. I was hauling ass. I used the sanitizer on my desk. I was like, "Phew, gotta get back in here. I have no idea what my body made so much piss. No idea.
All
So
right.
we are now on to one of my favorite horror duologies of all time because there's only 2 of them,
And a remake.
and a remake that I haven't seen yet, but I've heard is pretty good. Pain and Pleasure, both so great they are indiscernible from one another. We are talking about Hellraiser and Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Two of these I wouldn't say are like in my top 20 or top 30 or anything, but like in terms of horror movies, these both are in the top 10 together. I love both of these movies. Um Let's see. I could do. I could lead on Hellraiser 1 if you want to lead on 2 because you like 2 a little bit more.
Okay.
We could do that. Fun story. Before the first time I watched this movie, I you ever used Pluto TV?
No, I have not.
You never like looked at it or anything?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's cool. If you have a smart TV or any like smart device, you can get on there, and it's just like 180 free channels, and they all play different things. Like there's one just plays Doctor Who all day, like a One Piece one. Well, there was a horror movie one, and I turned it on one day, and I had fallen asleep. I think I was sick, and I woke up a few hours later. I looked over, and it was the part with like Julia and Frank, and they're like, he's like, "I need you to give me bodies to make me whole again."
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, this is good. What is this? And I like hit info in the description and it said Hellraiser. I was like, this? This is Hellraiser? This is the Pinhead guy movie. What is this? This isn't the Pinhead. The Hell Priest, who a lot of people in the fandom have gone to calling him Pinhead, is in the first movie maybe 6 minutes total. In the entire runtime. Has nothing to do with him. It really sucks what they did with this franchise, and it makes me upset because the first 2 films are so great because they break the mold of what traditional horror is and what we know of like that type of genre. And then everything past the second one is just a slasher movie.
Yeah.
It gets rid of everything.
I do want to take a quick side note here and just ask you one question.
Sure.
Who are you calling Pinhead?
Dude. Yeah. I should have known. Um Yeah, this movie, man, it is weird. It's very special. I wish Clive Barker got to adapt more of his stuff because he's very good. He just creates things. Um, so we open on Hellraiser, and we see this man, and he buys this puzzle box from a vendor, and he's like, "How much?" or whatever, and he pays him, takes the cube, and he leaves. And we see this guy kind of in his room, and it's like he's got all these candles around him, real like Satan witchy shit. And he's about to open this box, and they were like turning it around and everything, and he solves it, and we see these chains kind of just start flying at him, and they pierce like different parts of his skin, and they kind of hold him there, and then we see it all just vanish, like it just everything's gone.
Yep.
Nothing happened in that room. And so, what did you think of the opening?
I was very interesting. Because as somebody that's never seen Hellraiser before, I do the same thing that most people that have never seen it before do, where they're like, I have a feeling that this guy's going to be more important, and he isn't. So seeing the Hell Priest in the beginning, you're like, oh, there he is, and then he's gone for like the rest of the movie.
Yeah, yeah, he is not in it very much. Sam says no movies that start with a person buying something from a creepy vendor can end up with a happy ending.
That's
And they,
debatable. I'm sure you could find one somewhere.
Gremlins was kind of a happy ending, but a lot of people died.
Hey, it could
Um,
be like the crate from Creepshow.
yeah, it could be good creep show reference. She also said they credited him so specifically because they hated that nickname. Yeah, yep, that's true.
Yeah.
They hated the nickname. Clive Barker hated the name Pinhead. And he thought it like made lesser of what he created.
Yeah, a huge
Um,
thing about that too is like so many people went off of his character design for a nickname for the character, which is pretty much what you do in high school.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. You're right about that. So we get this family moving in there, and it's this husband and his new wife, and she's a bitch. Her name is Julia. She is a bitch.
Yep.
And she like enters the house, and she's like, "Ooh, it's so gross." There's like bugs crawling everywhere, and it's revealed that it was his brother Frank's. So Julia goes upstairs, and some time passes, and her husband comes up, and he like cut his hand. He's like, "Oh, honey, I'm bleeding," and he like walks in, and he drips blood on the floor. Little does he know, Frank is like interdimensionally trapped in the floor. I know that sounds weird,
Yeah.
but he's like trapped there spiritually, and the blood like kind of wakes him up, and he starts to need flesh, and he starts by eating like some animals, and then he talks to Julia, and he's like, "Hey, how about you bring me some people, and you let me eat them."
Yeah. We also had to talk about the prosthetic makeup in this movie on
Yes.
Frank. It is so good. It is
Yeah,
unbelievable for the time period and everything. It looks phenomenal.
he looks very believable when he's like coming back to life, and he's like he has no skin on his
Yeah.
body, and
So they
he
build him
looks
back up layer by layer.
yeah, it's a really cool effect. Sam says terrifying. Yeah, it is an awesome effect. And what's very interesting as well with that whole thing is the amount of just really cool like miniatures that they utilized, especially in the second one, and just like use the practical effects that they had, and they made everything look so good. I mean, every frame of that movie is just a work of art to me. It's weird to call a horror movie beautiful, but Hellraiser is like one of the ones for me personally that like gets closest to that bar of being absolutely just gorgeous.
Yeah, a lot of the effects and everything are very well done. I love the way it's shot as well. Like I don't know, it feels claustrophobic in a lot of scenes.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so do you want to talk a little bit about your reaction to like a third or a little bit more than a third of the movie just being Julia building Frank back up, and like did you see that coming from this movie?
I didn't honestly, like I without having any prior experience, like I mentioned to Hellraiser, you think it revolves around the Cenobites, or as I like to call them, the Cinnabon Delights, a lot more than it actually does.
Yeah, it's very it's so weird too, and the novella is really good. It's short. Um, it's really well written, and it's like a romance, really. And the Cenobites are just kind of there, and it's like this weird, fucked up. Yeah, it's hard to explain. So, a, like I was saying, over a third of this movie is Julia getting these bodies
Rebuilding,
for Frank.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And she's like picking guys up from bars, and he's like he lures him in, or she lures him into the attic, and then he kills him, and he's like, "I need skin."
Yep.
He's like, I need a good one. I need skin," and he wants his brother's skin.
Yeah. The even crazier part of it, throughout the movie is like, I don't even know how many the like confirmed kills they actually have, but he's like, yeah, just like 3 or 4 more. I'm pretty sure it's more than that.
Yeah, yeah. He he went through a bunch of fucking uh there were at least I feel like there were more than four. I agree with you. Like I'm trying to count in my head, but
I mean,
man,
I
she
feel
was
like
just
there were some that
bringing
were
them
off
home.
screen, to be honest. Like the way that, because it has like a little montage, doesn't it? Am I
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Can we just pause and talk about like how fucked up of a person Julia is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
So
her
was
brother's
she
fucking
having an affair with him before he died?
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So she was having
Well,
an affair with him
happened once.
before. Yeah.
It happened once, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
But then to like obsess over him so much to the point where you find out that he is now a blood monster, and that to bring him back to full, like to his full form, is to bring him more people to kill. Uh, and just accepting that, like, yeah, I can do that. Like,
yeah,
what?
like how fucked do you have to be like, yeah, my brother's dead, or Jesus Christ, my husband's dead brother. I think I'm gonna bring him back from the dead, suck
Yeah.
on his finger, and kill some people for him. Like,
What's so
what the
weird too is like when they first get into the house at the beginning of the movie, they're like looking around, and they find like the little cot or whatever that Frank was sleeping in, and she like finds pictures of him, and she just starts having like fantasies about it.
Yeah, yeah, she's fucked.
Yeah.
She's just as sick as he is.
Yeah.
And you have Frank now, and he wants his brother dead. He wants his skin. And their daughter, his daughter is kind of like she doesn't like Julia already,
Yeah.
and she definitely didn't like Frank. I Okay, let me ask you this. Did it seem in the movie like they were insinuating that he molested her?
That's what it seemed like.
It really seemed like the imagery of like like the flowers and whatever, and fucking it really seemed like there was like something that happened when she was younger.
Yeah.
And especially like we'll get to it here in a second, but like when he's cornering her, he's like, "Come to Daddy Frank."
Yeah.
Like that's weird.
Yeah.
There's some fucked up shit going on there.
Oh yeah.
So, um, so he's like, "I want the skin." Julia's like, "No, no, no." And the husband comes home, and finally she's just like, "Good, take a skin." Like this poor guy, he's like the nicest husband in the world,
Yeah.
and he's just like so confused by her like mood swings
Yeah.
because of
She's like
Frank.
on and off, like uh it seems as though she's like fully committed to Frank at that point, and she is just like has doesn't want anything to do with him. And when she finally like starts trying to, Frank's in the room and is like creeping up, and she's just like, no, don't stop, I can't do it. And
Yeah,
then he's like, I don't get it.
yeah. The husband's like, "You were just all over me, and now you're like, what's happening here?" So his daughter gets home, and she solved the puzzle box and had an encounter with the Cenobites, and he was like, or she makes a deal with them. She's like, "Hey, listen, a guy escaped here. His name is Frank. I could get him for you." And they're like, "Okay, go ahead. We'll give you a chance, but if you're lying to us, we will tear your soul apart." And she's like, "Uh-huh." She gets back to her
Mhm.
house. Yeah, she gets back to her house, and she realizes what's going on with her dad, and she like comes to realization the only way she's gonna get out of this is if she brings the Cenobites back. And they appear, and they're like, they find the dead guy like with all of his like blood sucked out of his body, and the hell priest picks it up. He's like, "Find me the man who did this." and she leads them to Frank. Um, so what did you think of like this whole section of the movie?
I thought this might be my favorite part of it. Like getting to the climax here was it's because now like the mystery is pretty much solved and we know what's going to happen now. As long as you know it goes through, and even then we have an air of uncertainty because the Cenobites are like, just because you bring him to us doesn't mean, like, we'll think about it, but we're not guaranteeing you'll be safe.
Yeah, yeah, they're very shifty little critters.
Yeah. Additionally,
So
I do want to go back to when she solves the box in the room, in like the hospital. The most iconic line for me was "You opened the box, we came."
yeah, that's one of the most famous lines from the first movie. You open the box, we came. We also skipped over Julia's death. Frank just fucking murks her.
Oh
Doesn't give a
yeah,
shit about
it was
her
an
at all.
accident. Like he was like aiming for Christy and got Julia.
Yeah, he's just like, oh well, shit. Yeah, Trent says, "Fuck Frank." Um, so they get a hold of Frank, and one of my favorite improv lines of all time is in this scene. They start pulling his skin apart, and they're like got the hooks in him, and they're pulling him apart. And the Hell Priest is like, "You do not need to see this." And she's leaving, and she like kind of turns and looks around, and they have a piece of Frank's face kind of dangling there. And he like licks his lips and he says, "Jesus wept." And then he just explodes. That line was completely improvised. He was like, originally didn't say anything at all. He just like kind of screamed and exploded.
Yeah.
And they were filming, and he was like, "I'm gonna try this out." And he did the line. And they were like, "Whoa, like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's really creepy." Uh, some chatters. Trent says, "Fuck Frank. She deserved it for real." Um, so now that the Cenobites are chasing Kirsty, if you want to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. So basically they're like, we're not done with you, to Christy after or Kirsty. It's such a weird name. Anyway, but they're like, we're not done with you. And they're like, same thing's gonna happen to you basically. But she picks up the box and starts reversing what she did to solve it, and it's casting these beams out that hit the Cenobites one by one and send them back. The only one that doesn't get sent back actually was which one is that? Like, because he has like the roof like collapses on him.
The Chatterer.
Is it the Chatterer? I thought it was the one with the little tiny glasses.
Oh yeah, it is. It is the guy with the tiny glasses. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he gets like crushed, and then he's still in the sequel. I don't know what happened. Anyway, and then the at the door, what's that thing? It wasn't a Cenobite. What was it?
It was a it's like a guardian of the
Yeah,
cube. It kind of like appears, and they drive it away.
yeah.
When they're leaving the house. I think that sequence is a little rushed.
I think so too. Like it feels like they were like, okay, now we gotta like wrap up this whole thing that we did with Kirsty and like finish the movie, and they're like, she solves the box.
And she figures out the lament configuration.
Yeah,
Trent is quoting the movie. "No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering." Um, so she escapes with her boyfriend. Kirsty's running down the road, and there's this homeless guy we've seen a few times throughout the movie. He appears every so often weird. He like is eating the bugs in this pet store.
yeah. Like he has like a handful of like crickets on his hand.
Turns into like this flying skeleton thing, takes the box and leaves, and we fade to black.
And then we see the trader that had it at the beginning of the movie selling it to somebody else.
What is your pleasure? It's great. And then we get into the sequel. Well, we should rate the first one first.
Yeah.
Let me pull my thing so I don't contradict myself. You go first.
I'd probably give it a 9. I really enjoyed the first one.
Dude, I gave it a 9 on my letterbox.
Your camera did not like that.
No.
It didn't focus on that at all.
Well, I gave it a 9. I said we have such sights to show you. I love that line. It's the Cenobites are so cool.
Yeah.
They're very unique, and I love just the whole lore. And it's so cool that they're not even a major part of the film.
The
They're
line
just
delivery from the
there.
Hell Priest is phenomenal.
That is the great Doug Bradley. I love Doug Bradley. He is awesome, and like everything he does, he's the best. So we are now on to Hellbound. So I'll let you take the lead now. I know you liked Hellbound a little bit more. I do too.
Yeah. So it opens up. It's not very long after the first one, is it?
No.
It's like maybe a month, couple months, maybe. I don't know. It's not long
Yeah,
at
it's
all.
it has that like opening like flashback, and then
Yeah.
it has now.
Yeah. So we have the flashback at the beginning, which I don't want to give anything away too much right here. I want to save it until we get further in because it comes back at the end of the movie. But it starts with this flashback, and then we go into it, and Kirsty is in like a mental hospital. And like all the doctors and everything, they're like, and she said something about like this weird box, and these Cenobites or whatever she's calling them came out, basically wanted to kill her. Her Uncle Frank was a skeleton or whatever. I don't know. They're none of them believe her. They're just like, yeah, she's full of shit.
Yeah, she is a psychopath.
Yeah.
So you don't want to say anything about the British officer opening the box.
What is it?
You don't want to say anything right now about the British officer
We
opening
can
the
mention
box.
that there's a British officer that opens the box.
Yeah, that's what I was wanted to put that in you guys' heads.
Yeah.
Just remember that this character is very, very important. We just get another person who opens the box.
Yeah,
And it's
he's
like,
just like in this tiny, like it looks like a barracks or something. And he opens the box, and that's pretty much all we get for the opening.
well, yeah, we see a little bit more,
Yeah,
but yeah.
we do see a little bit more, but we're gonna save it. Where was I?
Talking about Kirsty in the hospital, and everybody thinks she's a psycho.
Yeah. So basically, you know, she's like, I'm not crazy. I'm not taking these meds. I'm not crazy. And they're like, it's just to help you sleep, whatever. But then she's having like these episodes where she sees things. One of them is she sees the like skeleton of her father that had the skin removed. She sees it, and on the wall it says I'm in hell alone or something along those lines. And they're just like, they come in the next morning, she's sitting there staring at the wall. They're like, what happened? It's like, I saw him. They're like, no you didn't, whatever. No you didn't, shut the fuck up.
True.
But it's this is the moment when they're trying to introduce some more characters here. We have the lead like psychiatrist or whatever you want to call him, who's going around. He's making rounds throughout the hospital. Like he goes down to like the lower floor, and he's like looking at all these patients that are just, they're like so far gone. It seems as though there would be no way to bring them back. But she tells them, Julia was killed on a mattress. You have to burn that mattress. You have to destroy it, otherwise she could come back. And the lead doctor's like, huh, that's interesting. I'm gonna go get that mattress.
He's like a cool story. She told it to the wrong fucking doctor.
Yeah, pretty much.
Any other shrink would have been like, yeah, okay, buddy.
Yeah.
But this one was like, where's that mattress?
Where that at though? Anyway, so one of the other doctors is like, I'm gonna go like investigate, and he heads over to his place, and he sees the mattress on the floor. He's like, that's the mattress from her story. And there's like blood stains on it, whatever. And then the doctor comes in, and he has a patient that thinks that he has like bugs all over him, pretty much, and he's like scratching. He's like, help me get it off, help me. And then he gives the patient, what does he give him?
A box cutter.
A box cutter. Yeah, he gives him a box cutter, and he's like, "Oh, that'll help." And he starts like cutting into his skin, trying to itch these bugs that aren't there, and he's bleeding all over the mattress. And then Julia comes back, arms burst out of the mattress and like pull him in. This is a great scene. Like the just her coming out of the mattress and like uh she like gets him like on the mattress and like bites his neck or whatever it is. Does she go for the weird hand thing in the skull, or is it a bite? I don't remember.
I can't remember either. I think it's the hand thing.
Yeah, basically she takes her hand and just shoves it into the back of his skull and like just takes his energy, I guess, if that's what you wanted, the primordial goop. uh Yeah, then the doctor, we get this huge reveal where, like, in his office where the mattress and everything's at, we see he's got like 4 or 5 of the puzzle boxes. Uh, he's like obsessed with it. He has like drawings of the Hell Priest and other Cenobites, stuff like that. He has like so much of this evidence, and he's obsessed with them. So finally having this chance, he has this kind of obsession with Julia because he brought her back. And then we see that to bring her even further back, like Frank in the first film, he's taking all the patients that were in the lower level of the hospital and just sacrificing them to her, and she even gets her own skin back by the end of it all. But there's actually before she actually gets her skin back, I wanted to mention this scene because I almost forgot about it. There's a scene where he like wraps her in all these bandages, and they like, it's such a weird sequence.
Yeah, it's very sexual.
Yeah, it's very sexual, but then the other thing about that too is like they transition her back into skin so quickly, it felt like it was almost not worth doing in the film. Personally, that's not saying that it wasn't worth doing, but it feels like they did it very like quickly. It felt a little rushed, that's all.
Yeah, it was. Well, there was a lot to get to in this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, because
Like,
they opened
there's
up a
some really
lot
trippy
here.
shit.
Where the
Yeah.
first one's like, it's Frank and Julia for the first half, and then it's like the Cenobites and everything at the end. This one was trying to set up a lot more to begin with, but basically Julia gets her skin back. The other doctor that was spying on the whole interaction goes back and he's like, "Hey, Kirsty, you weren't wrong. Uh, this shit's real. Let's go investigate whatever." And they head over um and encounter Julia, who is now fully fleshed up, and kills the other doctor. It's such
Yeah.
a what a interesting premise, really. Like this film, like now that I'm even like thinking about it now, I'm just discussing like this is such a unique concept that I don't think anybody else has ever done.
That's Clive Barker, man. He's
Yeah,
weird. Like he's got the shit.
yeah,
Stephen King has like talked about him many times about how much he loves his work.
yeah,
Um, I feel like we should also mention Tiffany because we've seen
yeah.
her a few
I almost
times.
forgot to mention Tiffany as well. Tiffany's one of the girls being kept at the hospital. She's nonverbal, and she like basically they just give her puzzles to solve, and she's basically gonna be used by the doctor to solve one of the cubes or one of the puzzle cubes and bring the Cenobites in. It's a
Dr. Chenard. I looked it up because
Chenard.
I couldn't remember it.
Yeah, I couldn't remember either. I was like, I'll just keep going. Hopefully we remember at some point. But when they finally do, so she solves the puzzle and the Cenobites show up, and then the Hell Priest, I can't remember the exact line he says, but he's like, no, this wasn't done. It was basically he realized that Tiffany wasn't opening the box like of her own volition. She was being made to do it.
Yes.
What's the
This is.
line?
I feel like it's this is not her hand.
Yeah, something along those lines. But then
Yeah.
after this happens, the movie goes like it goes to 11.
Yeah, it goes really fast. Like shit is hitting the fan.
Yeah.
Um, So they force her to do the lament configuration, and I think I remember what he says. He says to her, "This was not her desire."
Yeah. And then he
Uh,
looks over where Julia and what's his name again? Sorry for the nest.
Chenard.
Chenard, Dr. Chenard were at, and they're not there anymore. But all the walls and everything have opened up to the labyrinth.
Yeah, and we see this like fucking giant creature called the Leviathan, and it grabs a hold of Chenard. And at first, the first time I saw this movie, I thought he was Dunzo, but like he becomes like the main Cenobite.
Yeah.
He's
They put him in the
transformed.
Brain Blender 3000, as
Yes,
I like to call it.
like he picks it up, he's like, "Ah!" just vibrating.
Yeah.
Uh, oh yeah, so all right, go keep going.
But throughout this, the Cenobites see Kirsty again, and they're like, so second time we've seen you. This you have no other like stories here. Like, we're gonna take you this time. You can't keep getting away with it. Well, you can't keep getting away with it.
You can't keep getting away with this.
uh, so her and Tiffany are trying to basically get out. Well, I mean, okay, so Kirsty, her whole thing is she wants to find her dad here in the labyrinth, since she was having the visions and everything. And Tiffany's just like, I'm just along for the road at this point, I guess. And Julia is also in the mix. I don't remember. It gets really foggy here, to be honest, because it's a lot is
Well,
happening.
yeah, they're running through these labyrinths, and they all kind of have their own thing going on.
Yeah.
Kirsty is with the Cenobites, and we get that moment with Kirsty and the Hell Priest first. And if you want to talk a little bit, this is when we first see Chenard being reborn, and this is the reveal of the British officer.
Yes. So, in the beginning of the film, as we discussed, the British officer solves the puzzle and basically is taken into the labyrinth and turned into the Hell Priest. We watch as all the needles are put into his head and everything. So we get the reveal that the Cenobites were at one point human.
Yeah.
And it is,
and they were taken over by their greed.
yeah, and it's such a fantastic reveal. It's done very well. Like, you kind of have that moment where, like, at the beginning where you're like, you see like the origin of the Hell Priest, and you're like, oh shit, and then it cuts back, and it's almost as if they've restored their humanity in that moment, as the doctor comes in his newly found Cenobite form that it seems he's getting very accustomed to. He's taken a liking to his new form.
He's loving that shit.
Yeah. And he starts cutting down all the Cenobites that we've come to know at this point. And in their final moments, we see them back as their human forms.
Really, really good scene.
Yeah.
Really good. I love the Doug Bradley.
Especially the scene, the Hell Priest is also taken out, but in his final moment, he looks over at Kirsty and Tiffany, kind of like this look of understanding as it's taken out.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
I love that they didn't do anything cheesy. It was a really good ending for his
Yeah.
character.
We also have what happens with Kirsty and her father. That wasn't actually her father. It was Frank again.
Yep.
Which is, this scene was very disturbing. Because if we thought that, you know, there was that we suspected, we just got a redemption for you to sit up.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
It's
I
for
thought it was
both
gonna
of
be
us,
rough.
but it's for both of us. But anyway,
Oh,
um, we have if we had our suspicions that in the first movie, that Kirsty may have been molested by Frank, it's almost confirmed in this film.
yeah,
In this scene where he's basically like, this is my own personal hell. They tempt me, as there's these, um, I don't know what you call it. It's almost like a coffin that rolls out. Like, think of like a morgue, like the pull out table. It's like those, but it's got these invisible women on it. He's like, this is my own personal hell. Basically, I just can't have them. But I'm just saying that's basically Frank.
yep, yep,
Uh,
pretty much.
yeah. Anyway, um, who is it? Does Julia show up in this scene? Am I thinking
uh,
right?
yes, she comes up and she kills Frank. Again, she destroys him,
Yep.
and then Julia gets killed by the vortex.
She gets sucked out of her skin.
Yep. Yep. So now it's just Kirsty, Tiffany, and Dr. Chenard.
Yeah. And at one point, when I can't remember who it is, was it was it the Hell Priest that like did something to the cube and he made it into like the labyrinth, or not the labyrinth, the Leviathan's shape?
It was Tiffany, I believe.
Okay. Basically the cube got taken and now it's in this, it's almost like a pyramid, no, not a pyramid, more like a crystal like layout. And they're like, if we solve the cube, we can close the labyrinth, we can get out and go home, basically, and leave the doctor here. Tiffany's basically singled out while trying to solve the puzzle, and Kirsty gets like thrown back and is like, I don't know what to do, and we see her run away, and basically Tiffany's left holding onto the ledge of the labyrinth, trying to not fall, while the doctor is sitting there trying to push her up, basically. And then Julia shows back up and is like, come here, basically. And he's like, I thought you were done with me. And she's like, I could never be done with you. Pushes him over the ledge and then goes to help Tiffany up. He's grabbing her hand as as her arm starts to rip off. The arm rips off and she pulls her up. And then we get the reveal that it was Kirsty who just took Julia's skin and put it on.
Yep, was just wearing her skin.
Yep.
It's pretty good reveal.
Yeah.
So we see these two guys at the end of the movie after the girls leave, and they're all safe, and we see them like moving this mattress out of Dr. Chenard's house, and one of them gets pulled into the mattress, and the other one sees this like pillar rise with it, and there's a bunch of like faces of like Cenobites and different people on the pillar, and we see the guy from the beginning and the ending of the first movie who is like pawning the cube, and he says, "What is your pleasure, sir?" Fades to black.
Yep.
Really good. I really, really like Hellraiser 2. I think it's one of the best horror sequels.
It is Sam says it sounds like a very wild movie. It is very, very wild. Like it's different for sure.
Yeah, I think Sam's only seen the first Hellraiser.
Okay.
I don't think I've watched the second one with her.
Oh, okay.
So what would you give it? She said correct. What would you rate it out of 10?
I give it a 9.5, and purely the reason I can't go 10 is just because of the how fast the pacing is in the beginning. And I get why, but at the same time it still is something that I want to knock a small point off for.
I don't know why my Letterboxd review is off. It should have been a 9. I had it as an 8. I forgot to put the little because it's done in like a star scale, but
I gotcha.
it's a 9 for me.
Okay.
I really liked it. It's really good, and they're both a 9 for me. But I like the second one is like 9.05. Like it's like right above that mark.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better for me. So, we're now into our final duology of the night, Candyman and Candyman 2021. There is no such thing as Candyman Farewell to the Flesh or Candyman Day of the Dead.
Yeah, if you think that you've seen those movies, we would like to inform you that you might be in a mental hospital.
So, Candyman was your pick, right?
Yes. So the
Okay.
first Candyman was my pick, and then you suggested watching the 2021 one because it was the tie-in was definitely worth the tie-in. I'll say that much.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really good.
so to go into Candyman, for a little bit of context, this was one of the first horror movies I ever watched when I was like younger, and it was like I caught it on TV at like 3 a.m. And to say that I was unsettled is an understatement. I was straight up, I was like, oh shit, this is good. This is like, I was on edge. But Candyman. It's this movie takes on the concept of urban myths and legends. So we follow why is her name gone from my head?
Helen.
Helen. Yes, we follow Helen, who is a grad student, and one of her projects is working on studying urban myths and legends, as previously stated. But she gets caught up on the idea of Candyman, who I don't remember what exactly, like how she gets introduced to the idea. What was it? I can't remember.
She gets it from this urban legends like thing that she attends, like a lecture.
Yeah, that's right. And then as they were talking more about it, she meets like one of the janitors for the colleges there, and she starts talking to her, and she's like, yeah, the one of the other janitors knows about it a little bit more about it, and starts talking to her. And she starts talking about how like a body was found at Cabrini Green in the they say it's linked to Candyman. As the legend goes, if you look into the mirror and say his name 5 times, he'll appear.
Pretty sure Discord, seeing yourself on Discord like we are, counts it as a mirror. So watch the amount of times you say that.
Yeah, don't say it. Basically, it's Scary Terry if you think about it, or Bloody Mary.
Yeah,
Just
Bloody
the
Mary.
dumb legends that we came up with is or were told about as children. And I love that about this movie as well, is because it's something so similar to real life, where we talked about, like, we've all been exposed to the Bloody Mary game, the Scary Terry, all of it. So the fact that it's something that very much happens in real life is being done in this movie is very cool.
Can I just say it is like a the Candyman kind of encompasses multiple different urban legends. Like you
Yeah.
have the guy. You ever heard the story of the guy at the drive-in and there's the killer on the loose and they left the hook on the car door handle, like the serial killer
Yeah.
had a hook for
Yeah.
hand. Yeah, that's where the hook comes from and things like that. There are a lot of different urban legends
Oh,
that like
and
kind
the
of
and like it's also an urban legend, the candy that has like razor blades and shit in it.
Yep. Yep. That one that idea of the candy with the razors is expanded upon a lot more
Yeah.
in the second one.
Yeah, because we talked about how that, like, in reported history there's only been one, and it wasn't even relevant to Halloween or anything.
Yeah.
But Helen convinces one of her friends to go to Cabrini Green, which is it's in the projects. The film takes place in Chicago, I should mention. And she wants to investigate the area where the body was found, and she's basically lurking around taking pictures. And the entire time, this is actually something about the production of this film, is it had a slightly lower budget. So what they did was, instead of hiring like extras to play like the residents of Cabrini Green, they paid like actual like gangbangers and thugs to fill the role, which is crazy. I think that's something that also makes the movie so unsettling, is because it's taking place in a real life situation. Like this is like they filmed on location, so it's very cool.
I also feel like we should mention, because we neglected to. Clive Barker wrote this as well. He wrote Hellraiser.
Oh, yeah.
And he also wrote this.
Yeah.
So he was kind of everywhere at this period in time. So she's working on this thesis on how Cabrini Green, the residents of Cabrini Green, use the Candyman legend, and she's talking to the victim's neighbor. I think her name's Anne, right? Anne Marie.
Yeah.
Uh, so she's having dinner and they're talking about the Candyman, and I'm pretty sure the original name for him was Daniel Robitaille.
If I'm
And
not wrong, I think, yeah, that sounds right.
and he was the son of a slave. He fell in love with a white woman and impregnated her. They sent a lynch mob after him, killed him. The story that we've heard sadly many a time. And they burned his corpse in this like big fire. And Helen comes back to Cabrini Green and she meets this boy named Jake. And I'll let you.
Yeah.
I'll let
So
you
Jake is a firm believer in the Candyman story. And he's basically like, yeah, I've seen Candyman, and tells her about this this public restroom that's outside. And who was it? It's about this little kid that was in there and got like basically cut like groin to stomach by a Candyman. And she wants to go like take pictures, look at the like the area for herself. She goes in, she's taking pictures, and these guys walk in, and one of them has this hook that he keeps in his hand, and he's like, I'm the Candyman.
I'm the Candyman, bitch.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says. And basically assaults Helen. And the kid comes in, he's like, fuck around, find out, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, so then it cuts, and she's at the police lineup with all the people, and they're like, step forward, say the line, I'm the Candyman, bitch. They do that, and she's like, yeah, it's number 5. He gets prosecuted basically. And then she's still just going about working on her whole thesis. This is it's such an interesting film, truly.
Yeah, it gets really weird and psychological at a certain point.
Yeah.
So she it's after this happens that she says Candyman, right? Or is
It's
it before
it's
this?
actually before they even go to Cabrini Green for the first time.
Okay, that's what I thought. And he finally, like, after this happens, he finally like
Yeah,
appears to her in this
she's in the
parking
parking garage, yeah.
and he's like talking to her. He's like, "Be my victim." And
Iconic line.
Tony Todd is so creepy, and he's got the bees like crawling in and out of his mouth, which he actually just like put honeybees in his mouth.
Yeah.
He's crazy. He's such a good actor. And
I got confirmation, by the way, chat and audio listeners. I did ask Mike if he would be his victim, and he said yes.
I would indeed. Tony Todd is a hunk. So he explains to Helen that he has to shed innocent blood. He's got to do it. And then Helen kind of like passes out. She wakes up in Anne Marie's apartment. Her Rottweiler is dead, just completely decapitated, and her son is gone.
Yep.
So the police come and take her.
Yeah, they're basically like, you have no defense. Like, you were in the bathroom covered in blood. You had the weapon in your hand. You have nothing. Like, basically she's just forced into it. There's nothing she could really do about that. But where does it go from here? She isn't like,
She's taken into custody.
yeah.
And her husband bails her out.
That's right. Yep. And basically she goes about it, and she's like, trying to talk to her husband. She's like, "You believe I didn't do it, right?" And then he's just like, "Eh." uh, and the throughout the course of this, like, she's just missing that entire chunk of time from the parking garage to waking up in the apartment, and that's like, if you put that in perspective, that's terrifying. If you were just like, yeah, I was in the parking garage, now I'm gonna pull a blood and there's a dead dog head. uh but after this, she's basically tormented by Candyman continuously, until we get to another point where uh her friend shows up, the one that she went to Cabrini Green with the first time, and is uh basically ends up killing her as well. And we're put in the situation of like, everybody's like, okay, there's no way that the first one was a fluke. Helen, you literally are killing people. And they're all just she's just like, there's no way. They take her into a psych ward, pin her down, and then like, we have this scene where Candyman is floating above her bed as she's screaming, and she's like, he's in here, and then he goes under, and she's like, he's under the bed, they just shove this needle in and sedate her. And then we finally get the reveal that she's been like sedated for like a month. She's been in the psych ward for like a month, and she lost that entire month of time in the psych ward just because they kept giving her drugs and she didn't know.
Yeah.
It's messed up.
Yeah, it's fucked.
But she finally makes her escape. Go ahead, you had something.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the scene where she's like kind of where she's committed finally is just, at this point in the movie, like, you're like, I don't know, like, this does seem a little weird.
Yeah.
She's the only one that really sees him.
Yeah. I think that's a thing too, where it's like, if you say it, you see him. That's
Yeah.
And nobody else has said it throughout the film except for her. But during this, she basically looks in the mirror, says his name 5 times again, and the doctor that's interviewing her just gets like, just his throat slashed or something. You see blood just start coming out of his mouth, I think. As Candyman is there once again. So she's like, I have to get away from this. Like she gets herself out of the restraints, and then is like making an escape. She steals a nurse's uniform and just kind of blends in until she gets out, and makes her way back to her old apartment, where she sees her former husband as a new roommate.
A student of his named Stacy.
Yeah. As they're repainting the walls and everything, and she's just like, you like never believed me. Having this whole thing, Stacy is like in shock. She doesn't want to speak at all. This is like, you get to this point in the film and you're just like, oh, like, this is like genuinely, throughout the entire film you feel uneasy, but at this point you're just like, this is like, you don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, it's rough. It
Yeah.
is really rough. And she decides, like, well, I guess, my husband cheated on me. We're done now. I guess the only thing I could do is go to Cabrini Green and try and save Anthony. It was Anne Marie's son.
Yeah.
And she gets there. She makes a deal with Candyman. I'll be your victim. And there's like this mural thing. There's a mural of Candyman and his lover, and it's her. And he says to her that he promises he'll release Anthony if she helps him strike fear into the hearts of like the people of Cabrini Green. Um, he's trying to burn both Helen and Anthony in the fire, and she kind of like knocks him back and like starts crawling out of it. The fire collapses on him, and she's crawling out. Her skin's burning off her body. She looks like Anakin Skywalker in Revenge of the Sith, just like
Jesus
crawling
Christ.
out of this. She does. She's crawling out of this giant fire, and she's got the baby safe, and She gives it to Anne Marie, and there's like they have this like small funeral for Helen, and like all of the residents of Cabrini Green are there
Yeah.
when she's getting buried. And then we get this like kind of
Little
teaser
stinger.
thing. Yeah. Um Trevor, her ex-husband, is looking in the mirror and he says Helen's name 5 times instead of Candyman. And she appears and kills him.
Yep.
So thoughts? What do you think about this movie? What do you give it out of 10?
Yeah. So this being one of my first horror movies, it's very special to me. Especially I like that it plays on the urban legends thing. Like you don't really get to see that a lot of the time. Seeing an urban legend be real is very cool. But I love the whole like story around it. I love the production stories with like the shooting on location, everything. It makes the movie feel more authentic when you know that, like when you have that knowledge. Um, but then I love the performance of all the characters. Tony Todd, especially, like that, like the way that he portrays Candyman, it was such a. It's not. He isn't very imposing per se. I mean, besides the hook and the bees, but I think so much of that comes from his voice. The way that he speaks as Candyman is very uh it's very good.
It's it's awesome. He does such a great job, and he did a great job as Venom in Spider-Man 2 as well.
Yeah, if you haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, you should do something about that.
Yeah, you should play it.
Yeah.
Candyman is a 9 for me.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. It's a 9.
All right. So we are on to the only other Candyman film that has ever been released. Don't Google it. We're right. Your Google is not. There's only one other Candyman movie, Nia DaCosta's 2021 film, and I love this movie. I saw it in the theater right around the time it came out. It did such a good job, like blending in more social commentary. It was very, very good. And it was I'm pretty sure it was supposed to come out before the pandemic, but it was delayed a bunch.
I think so. Yeah, and on top of that, we also have Jordan Peele, who was a large part of the film. He gets the executive producer role, but he definitely helped it a little bit more than that.
He also helped write it. He
Yeah.
was part of the screenplay as well.
Yep.
It was his production company, Monkey Paw Productions.
Yeah.
So we open in 77 and we see we hear about this guy named Sherman Fields, and he's like, wait, must be one of those Mandela effects or something. Oh, the Candyman movies.
Yeah, there's only 2 of them. I don't know what you're talking about.
So there's this guy, and his name is Sherman Fields, and he's like, there's this rumor going around that he's putting razor blades in candy because there were a bunch of white kids that got razor blades in their candy and they ate them and they died. And Sherman Fields gets blamed, the Candyman.
Yep.
And this this boy goes into the bathroom in Cabrini Green, and he's just like comes out, he's just like smiling, he's like, I got candy, and the cops just come in and just beat him to death.
Yep.
Just absolutely beat him to death, and it's revealed that he was innocent. A few weeks later, more blades showed up and more kids' candy.
A big thing about this too, I didn't mention it when we watched it, but the moment when he's walking away, like he takes a handful of candy, he's walking away, and he's about to head back home, and he hears the cops rushing the building. The one singular piece of candy that he drops on the floor, there's something about that is just so. I love that part of it so much. It's such a small detail, but I love it.
Yeah, it's a really good opening, and I love the different actors that they got to play the Candyman in this one.
Yeah.
There's some stuff I'll get into. Well, we'll get into. Um, there are several different versions of Candyman in this movie,
Yeah.
and it works really well with the idea they're trying to convey. So, I'm gonna try and speed this up a little bit because it's like midnight and we're about to hit 2 hours.
Yeah.
Um, so it's in present day. I think it's supposed to be like 2018 or 2019. We have this Jesus Christ, artist Anthony McCoy. He's in Chicago. He's doing these paintings and he's trying to look for some inspiration. He meets this he hears the story his girlfriend's brother's boyfriend tells him and about Helen Lyle.
Yeah.
And we realize she became like the
An urban
boogeyman
legend.
yeah, an urban legend, the boogeyman of Cabrini Green after that night. They were like, "Ooh, I
Yeah,
don't know about this Helen Lyle."
the way that they retell the story, and like twist it, like when we hear about how she like about how the dog was killed, they say she was in the bathroom doing snow angels in the blood, and like whenever the baby was like was lost, they found Helen throwing the baby into the fire.
Yep. Yep, they twist it, and it's really interesting, kind of like how they made her this thing, this legend, um, and they tell them about the Candyman thing. Well, sorry, Jesus, I'm jumping way ahead of myself. He wants to investigate it further, so he goes to Cabrini Green. He gets stung by a bee, and he's talking to this guy that he meets in this laundromat, and he is the boy that witnessed Sherman's death. He
Yep.
saw it. Um, he talks to him about the Candyman, and he explains to him that he has to say it 5 times. So he makes this piece of art very elaborate, like "Say my name," and everybody's like, "Yeah, that sucks. That's fucking trash.
Yeah.
Dumb,
The big
dumb
thing
art
too
guy."
is like his girlfriend and everybody, they look at it and they're like, your first couple of pieces you were kind of hinting at the idea, but this is like straight up, like this is gruesome and it depicts it straight up.
Yeah,
And what's really cool about it too is the way that he does the art piece, where it's a mirror on a wall and then the mirror opens up and it shows the art pieces inside.
yeah, yeah. It's really neat. So a bunch of the art critics like shit on him, and he's pissed. He's like, "Fuck you guys," and he leaves. Um, and there's these people that are kind of left. It's like this museum curator and like his like secretary, but
Yeah.
they're sleeping together. And they go in front of the mirror and they say Candyman, and he shows up. He kills them both. Really cool special effects. I love the way the lights are flashing. We also didn't talk about how cool the opening is with like the credits and everything upside down and all the
Oh yeah.
buildings upside
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, so it was very cool. I love the music in this film as well. It's one of the best parts of it, as well as the cinematography. But another detail I absolutely love is every time that we get to see Candyman in this film, it's only in reflections. So
Yeah.
there's a part where like when she first says it at the art exhibit and is killed, you see like you just see a reflection of it, and then the other guy turns and there's a reflection on the wall as this projector screen is being cut. You see it being cut by itself, and then you look in the reflection and you see him walking along with the hook cutting it open.
Yes. Yes, it's so good. It's the way that they did everything in this movie is oh, it the way that they reimagined the Candyman and had his scenes made him just that much more impactful. It really elevated him.
Yeah.
Um, so they're both dead, and Anthony's like freaking out, and he sees Candyman, and he is getting interviewed by this girl, and she's like, "Oh, so you're infamous now because you're painting, so I don't think it's shit anymore."
Yeah, that's a huge
And
thing too, is like the uh the art critic that was there, he was kind of telling her about the piece and everything, and she's like, oh, I see that, like very short, very noticeably short with him, and everything. And the I actually did a little funny joke when we were watching it, where she starts talking about the piece and like kind of criticizing it, being like passive aggressive with her critique of it, and then I just went, just say you don't like it.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. But then yeah, so he's at her apartment and just kind of discussing the piece, and she's like, ah, two people died because of your art piece or whatever. So I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and then he's like, how about you give it a try?" And he leaves, and she's killed by Candyman,
Yep.
and he goes to this dinner, and they're like, "Hey, that bitch is dead." So he's like freaking out. He's like, "Oh my god, Candyman's real." He goes to the laundromat owner, and he talks about the original one that we hear about in the first movie, Daniel Robitaille, and it's been like renewed every time like an innocent black man dies. He becomes a new Candyman in the Hive.
Yep.
I think they should have called this movie Candyman. I know that's weird, but I think it would have worked really good as like a plural play on
It
the
could.
name. Um, so he's like, okay. He goes to like talk to his girlfriend, kind of explain to her. She's like, "You are losing your fucking mind." And then it cuts to this school, and there's these kids, and they go into the bathroom. These like bitchy, like mean girls, and they say it 5 times in the mirror, and all of them are killed, just wiped out one after the other. And the bee sting is like getting worse. It's spreading all over his body. He's got these holes. He goes to see his mother, and we get such a good reveal. He goes to his mother's house to talk to her, and we notice that it is the actress from the first movie reprising her role. He was the baby that Helen lifted out of the fire, and Anne Marie was his mother, and she tells him, "I'm sorry I lied to you. You were born in Cabrini Green, and you were that baby." Tells him the whole story, and that everybody kind of blamed it on Helen, and it wasn't her fault.
Yep.
So he goes. His girlfriend is kind of looking for the laundromat dude. She's trying to find him, and she goes to this like abandoned church, and she finds Anthony. He's just like kind of in this chair, and he's like telling her that you have to like we have to do this. There has to be a new Candyman. It's the only way. The revenge of like the racism that's affecting us. The only way is another Candyman.
Yep.
And he's like just starts. Oh, it's so guttural. He's just sawing off Anthony's arm, and you just hear like the flesh and bone just like come apart.
Yeah.
He takes this hook and just like shoves it into the hole, and it's like, oh my god. So what did you think of the reveal and then the building of the new Candyman?
I thought that was very cool because it's not like it kind of ties in that the Candyman is more of a uh it's more of a mantle almost, where it's something has to happen, some form of um injustice has to happen for a new Candyman to be created. And
Yeah,
it was such a great reveal as well, because we kind of get the understanding of why there are different appearances for the Candyman.
yeah, and all the different time periods. We get a really cool scene with that. I can't remember if it takes place after this or before this, where it like goes from Candyman to Candyman, like the pictures. It's really cool. Like
It's when he's first telling him um about like the history of like the first
yes,
Candyman.
that's right. That's right. Um, so he replaces Anthony's hand with a hook, and he calls the police. He's like, "Oh, there's a crazy motherfucker down here, and he's got a hook for a hand. And he's killing us." And his girlfriend escapes, and she kills William, and uh, he like collapses in her arms and she's holding him. He's like, "It's okay, Anthony, it's okay." And like his eyes gone sideways, his skin's all fucked up. He's got a hook hand and he's like crying, and the cops shoot him down in cold blood.
Yeah, the moment that they walk in, she goes, "Wait, he needs help," and before she can even finish saying that, they pull the trigger on him.
Yeah. And then we get the one of my favorite scenes in the movie. She's in the back of the police car and they're trying to like get her to go along with the statement that Anthony was like a psychopath and it was justified what they did.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey, I'll do that. I'll do whatever you want. Can I see myself?" And the cop's like, "No." She's like, "Come on, I won't go with your story unless you let me see myself." He's like, "Okay, fine." So he turns the rearview mirror and she says Candyman 5 times. Anthony appears and just massacres all of the police that are in
Yep.
the area. And there's bees, and we get this really cool scene where it transforms. My voice just cracked again. From Yaha Abdul Mateen II, I can't believe I pronounced that correctly, into Tony Todd's Daniel Robitaille.
Yeah, and it's great because you get to see it because it's before so she's in the back of the car handcuffed, and you see him come around the side of the car, and in the reflection on the window of the car you see Tony Todd's face as he goes around the back. So cool. And I love that you mentioned it when we were watching, we like how the Candyman went from a symbol of, injustice to a symbol of vengeance in that moment.
Yep. Yeah, I love the way that sequel develops the plot from the first one and like
Yeah.
moves it forward that way. It's really good. Some little bit of trivia for you, Keegan, because I didn't tell you this when we watched it. You know the sequence at the end where you see the different like shadow puppets?
Yeah.
So we see Daniel Robitussin, we see Sherman, we also see Anthony Crawford, James Byrd Jr., and George Stinney, and then Anthony. Anthony Crawford, James Byrd Jr., and George Stinney are all real people. Anthony Crawford was killed by a lynch mob in 1916. James Byrd Jr. was killed by a group of white supremacists in Texas in June of '98. And George Stinney was a 14-year-old boy who was wrongfully convicted of murder and then put to death for it.
Jesus.
And they found out years later that they were wrong. They put a 14-year-old to death.
That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a really great way to. Reminded me a lot of Tales from the Hood where they flash like the real imagery.
Yeah, it kind of ties back in, and it gives you the real world like experience, like it adds that in, and by doing so it pulls us in where it's no longer just a movie, it's now part of history, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's done really well. What do you rate it out of 10?
It's up there. I think the original and this are both so good. It's probably a 9 as well, maybe even a 9.5.
I gave this one a 9, and it's the same with Hellraiser. They're both a 9 for me, but I would give this one a little bit more than the first one.
Yeah.
I like the way
I think the reason why this one works more is, yes, it's more political, but it's also still like it's more modern
yeah.
with the current politics, because the first one's political too. So
Yeah, this one is a different kind of political. It works really well.
yeah.
Even if you're not really into like a lot of political horror, this one I think does it pretty well.
Yeah, especially because it's not done in a way where it feels like it's being forced down your throat. It's not subtle either, but it's more like eye-opening, I suppose.
I was going to say that we should rank them all, but I don't think I can.
They're all so different. I don't think it'd be I don't think it'd be fair to rank them like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So I guess that's it. That's what we watched the last couple weeks.
Yep.
We've got a big one for you guys coming up on Tuesday. We are reviewing and talking about Halloween 1, 2, and 3 and Halloween 2018. We should have that episode for you guys on Halloween. That'll be a really fun one for live viewers and for our audio listeners as well. We love you.
Yeah. So that's pretty much I think this was a good episode. I kind of like when we do the more kind of lightning in a bottle type episodes.
Yeah, it's fun when you don't have like a completely strict thing you got to do. And you kind of just have like a hodgepodge of different ideas.
Yeah. I think at least I hope so, but I hope that for this episode there was something for everybody. Maybe one of the movies that we talked about, or just anything like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you haven't seen any of these and any of them sound interesting to you at all and you would like them, definitely check them out. There's several of them you can get for free online for like with Tubi and stuff like that. You don't even need a subscription.
Yeah, and for our YouTube watchers, we hope that you put comments down in the chat or in the comment section telling us about what your thoughts were on any of the movies, if you've seen them, or maybe if we've inspired you to watch them for yourself. So,
Yes, that would be good. Hit me up on MySpace and let me know if you're an audio listener.
yes, he's the guy with the whiteboard.
Yes, I'm the MySpace guy. Hit me up and let me know what you thought. So we've got that coming up, and I think we got an Attack on Titan episode coming up in a couple weeks.
Yep, we're nearing the final episode.
Yep, we're almost there.
It'll be interesting. We'll be talking about the finale of Attack on Titan. And it feels like it was just 2 weeks ago that we started watching it.
Yeah, it went by pretty quick. Time flies.
Yep.
All right.
That is pretty much everything from us. Once again, join the Toaster Discord. There'll be a link for that in the description here on YouTube. I'll see if there's a way I can do links on Spotify, but I have no idea. I haven't done it before. We'll see about that. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at convicted. I believe it's convicted_toast. I don't remember. But yeah, that's pretty much it for us. Hope to see you guys in the next one, and we appreciate you guys being here as always. Subscribers, followers, all that. You guys are great.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.